Hi, everybody! It's been a while, and we have a lot to catch up on this month. But first, we're going to go through 25 games that I played in a week, and the one game that I brought back from my trip to Edmonton. Let's get to it, shall we? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Boardgaymergirl channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie, and I like to talk about all things board games, but from a primarily solo perspective. Usually that is the case, but I actually went to Edmonton in June and spent a week with my friends Ilya and Tylor, who very graciously hosted myself and Jenna from the Board Game Garden. And we were there for GameCon, which is a convention that is in Canada and in Alberta and in Edmonton that we got to go to for the weekend, but we decided to make a whole week of adventures for it. I will get more into the actual adventures and the entire trip during my June recap that I'll hopefully have up within a week or so from this episode. And today we're just going to concentrate on the games that we got to play, because in a week, we actually played 25 games while I was there. And during the whole trip, I'm not usually a shopper or someone who picks something out just on a whim. So there was one game that I bought for the entire trip that I brought back with me that I'll get into at the end of this video. But for now, let's go through the 25 games that I played with Ilya, Tylor, and Jenna while I visited them in Edmonton. So I got there on Tuesday, June 16th, and the first night we played a few sillier games. Again, Ilya and Tylor were back from their trip from UKGE and London in general. And for this first day, we kind of just kept it chill and did some sillier or lighter to medium games. The first game that we were able to play was one that Ilya introduced us to, and that game is called In Order to Chance. In Order to Chance is a card game, and you're trying to collect different sets, but there is a quirky way that you'll be picking out cards. So while you will be scoring for cards that have similar shapes or colors in your own personal area that you'll be building up, you'll also be trying to bid for the cards in the market for a certain round. And these cards are 6 different cards that get flipped out, and the first and the second highest bidder win. But the way that bidding works in this game, and this game is only a 4 to 5 player game, so the minimum amount of players you can play this game with is 4. And you'll be trying to beat your diagonal partner, or at least not face off against the people that are adjacent to you when you're playing a 5-person game. And you're trying to get the highest bid amount higher than your diagonal partner. Your diagonal partner has to bid above you or they can pass. Once the first and second player are determined for that round, the highest overall bid gets to pick if they would like to cut the 6 market cards in the middle of the table, or if they'd like to choose after the other player cuts the cards in the table. And there's also these exterminate cards that come out, and you'll be bidding for those as well. But the bad thing is that if you get these, you have to discard the similar color or symbol that is on these exterminate cards from your grid. And once a certain number of these exterminate cards come out, you'll be counting up the points from different sets you'll have of shapes and colors that are adjacent to each other, and the person with the most points wins. So this kind of gave us a second with mind meltingness for our first game. We thought it was going to be a lighter game, or at least I thought it was going to be a lighter game. But the way that the bidding works is definitely one I haven't encountered before. So with 4 players, I would definitely say it probably plays better at 5. But the next game that we played is one that I was really looking forward to, and it is called Railway Porters. It's a sashi game, and it is 2 to 4 players, so unfortunately no solo for this one either. But this is a rolling dice placement game, and you'll be going through different rounds as each player has 6 different types of, I guess, railway station boards. Each board will have different ways that you can get points or place your dice on your turn. And how it usually goes is there is a lead roller for that round, and there are 2 huge chunky dice that they roll. And those rolls determine what dice you can place in that round after you roll your set of 6 dice. So let's say that the lead roller rolls a blue with 3 marks on it and a red with 2 marks on it. How those work is that once everyone else simultaneously rolls their own dice, they will only be able to place either blue or red dice. And if they have blue dice, they can only place up to 3 of them, because that is the amount of pips, I guess we'll call them, on the blue dice that round. And the same thing goes for the red. You can only place up to 2 red on your board in that round. If you can't place any, then you have to take one of your dice from your rolled pool and put them in a negative point area that can accumulate. And you can also decide if you'd like to push your luck and continue to try to roll dice into your player board, or quit for the round. So it's a simple but fun little dice game. I really like it. It does feel similar to almost trying to do a roll and write or flip and write or something, but it's dice and dice placement. The closest thing I can't really think of right now, but anyways, it was a really fun one, and just the way that Sashi and Sashi games are, I've become a really big fan since I was introduced to them, I think it was last year. So then the next games that we played were a bunch of silly party games, and the first one that we played was Stereo Mind. And Stereo Mind is a game for 2 to 5 players, and it's basically a music association or word and music association type of game that you play cooperatively. So this one has an app that you utilize while you're playing the game, and like a lot of similar kind of word association games, there are cards that get flipped out, and they have like 5 or 6 different words on that card. You'll play a random musical little bitty bit on the app, and everyone will have to choose which of those words are associated with that song. And you'll get points if you're able to simultaneously mind meld and get the same word. The way that you can mitigate things is there is a token, I believe, but the token is used to give to another person and say that I think you're not gonna get it, and we're all gonna be okay. So that also helps in some ways, but it is funny when you see who matches with what you were thinking for a certain song and who doesn't in their explanations. So we played that, I think, a couple of times, and then we played Piggy Yellow, which this one is a color and word association game. And this was also a really fun surprise, and we played this one a couple of times as well. So each player has their set of cards, and their set of cards is the same as everyone else, with different colors in the game, along with a Piggy Yellow card, which is like the wild color that you can utilize if you have no frickin' clue what the lead person is trying to make you guess for a color for a word. So in a round, you'll also have a table full of random cards on the table that kind of give a theme. So let's say cartoons is a theme, and then the person guessing for that round, or the lead clue giver that round, will say Homer, and they're trying to get everyone to put down a yellow card, so they put their yellow card on top of that market of cards, so the cartoon and then their yellow card, and then everyone else will put their cards underneath the cartoon card, hopefully putting the yellow card down as well. You win a round if you've got all the right colors, which I think we got at least one time. But there's some times where it's just, again, funny to talk about. Word association games are funny in that sense. I do like that there is colors in this one, but of course there is color blindness to take note of. So I think they also have the words written out as well. But that one was a really fun one and a surprising one. I think then we finished for the day. Did we set up the chunky game? There is a chunky game that's coming, but it took us 2 days to play. Anyways, I will just get on with what we played the next day. And the next day we played a whole bunch of game head games. So these are a bunch of like small box kind of games that play in like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at most. But the first one that we played is a game called Friendly Fishing, and this one is by Bruno Feduti, and it is a 2 to 5 player game. And it's a simple kind of set collection game that you'll be utilizing a grid for. So the main board is made up of different spots that you'll put a bunch of different fishies on, and there are some fishies that are in every game and score similarly in every game, and then there are some different fish that you can add or take out for each different type of game. So there's some variety in what fish are being played for each game. Now, there is a boat token, and on your turn, you'll be taking that boat token, and you'll have to collect a fish when you move it from this little island in the middle of the board. Then this will determine the options that the next player has for movement, as you get one movement to one of the other grid marks. And as soon as you get to a point in the grid where you're either on the outer grid or you can't catch any fish around your area, the boat comes back to the island, and the game ends when the boat comes back to the island and you cannot make any more legal moves to catch fish from the island. So in each game, you're not always collecting all of the fish on the grid, but you are trying to get the most points for yourself while screwing over your neighbors in a way by trying to limit their ability to complete their sets, because all of the fish that are taken in a round are open information that everyone can see. So this probably took us about 10 minutes. We played a couple of them. It's fine. It's a simple game. I'd say it's really good for kids and families, type of light-styled game. And then the next game that we played is called Wild Magic. It is a 2 to 5 player game, and this is a Reiner Knizia one. So this one, you are trying to collect different elements to set collect for the game. And there's cards in your hand, there's cards that you can draft from the market, and you'll be drawing cards on your turn. Cards, cards, cards. Basically what you're trying to do is draw cards into the market or take cards from your hand or grab cards from the market in order to make different sets. These sets are, I think, 6 different type of elements. So there's like water, which is blue, and mountains, which are red. And at the end of the game, if you are the person with the most of that element, you'll also have the bonus marker, which gives you extra points. But only the first and second place person in a game will end up scoring the points for that round. The person with the most points wins a game. And it's just important to note also that if somebody has collected 0 of a particular element, they are considered in last place. So the other 2 people in our 3-player game ended up getting points for that. So it's a fun little game, nothing really new. I do like the colors. And again, it's another quick like 10, 15-minute game. So the next game that we will look at is another game head game. It plays for 2 to 6 players, and it is called Pet Quartet. It is an open drafting set collection game again, but it's very thematically neat because you'll only score for soloists. So if you collect 1 card, or if you collect 4 cards of the same number, called a quartet. Any other set collection that you do of numbered cards don't get you any points. And the deck consists of numbered cards, I think from 3 to 10. And like the game Flip 7, I can't remember what the word is, but for the number 3, if you flip that card over, there are only 3 threes in the entire deck. So when you have 10s come out, you know you have a higher chance of being able to get a quartet of 10s, but you also know you have a higher chance of going over that 4 for a quartet. So you'll be thinking about that as cards are being drawn open to the market. And we played a 3-player game for this one. So you have 3 little conductor meeples. And you'll keep pulling cards into these 3 conductor rows. And then at one point or another, somebody will grab a particular set of cards, place them in their area, and the person with the most points at the end of the game wins. It sounds so new. I have not said that the person with the most points wins for a very long time. Maybe make a drinking game out of it every time I say, and the most points wins, take a drink. I don't know. Let's not promote that. You can do it with water. H2O. I'm done now. Whoa, that went on crazy mode. So the next game that we played was another game head game. It is a 3 to 8 player game, and it is called Sizewise. And this one's by Scott Brady, and it's got a little bit of a gimmick in it, but it is interesting. It's one that I don't think I've seen used in a game before. And size-wise, everyone starts with 5 different owl-wise-like tokens to start the game. And one person will flip over a card, and they will have a choice of 2 different questions to ask the table. And let's say, for example, they choose, how long are chopsticks? Okay, and then everyone goes under the table with their own unique little thing, and it's a string with a little ball on it. So picture a string that you pull out of like a wind-up doll, but it's got a ball on it, and you'll be measuring from the point of that pull lever thing to where your ball is. And once you've got the length that you want for your guess, you'll place it on this stick, and the person who chose the clue for that round will pick up the stick and see where everyone's guesses are. The people that have the shortest and the longest don't get any points, or well, they actually get rid of their points, those owl tokens, and everyone else is okay. You'll try to last as long as you can. Once somebody has no more tokens, the person with the most set of tokens at the end of the game wins the game. But it was a funny one and interesting to see how people play that. We played it a couple times as well for that one. But the last game head game that we played while I was visiting Ilya and Tylor was called Trick to the Future. And this is a 2 to 5 player game, and it's probably the one that I was most interested in. It is a trick-taking game, and it's also got a mechanic in it that I've only seen with the game Matchstick Tycoon, which is a game that I played maybe January or February or something. And you're playing a trick-taking game, but you've also got these little sticks, and all the cards are written in digital numbers so that you can use those sticks to change the value of the number of the card that you want to play. So let's say you have a 1, and you can add a stick to it and turn it into a 7. So the game comes with 4 different suits. There is the past, the present, the future, and beyond. And beyond is the ultimate trump suit if it is played in general. And every player has their own kind of fuel tank with, I think, 5 different sticks of fuel that they get to start with. The goal of the game is to try to win tricks to an extent, but a perfect trip is if you win the same amount of tricks as you have fuel tanks at the end of a round. You never want to have less fuel sticks in your personal area versus tricks taken from the round, because then you don't get any points. But if you either match the fuel sticks that you have, or have lower tricks than your fuel sticks, or even have no tricks and like all your sticks, those are all good. Because the theme of the game is that you're trying to make efficient time travel jumps, and you need your fuel in order to do it. Every trick you win, I think, is like a jump is what it's thematically supposed to be, but you need fuel in order to do that. So I don't know, if you have less fuel sticks than jumps, then maybe you just got stuck somewhere. But the person who has the most points over, I think it's like 3 rounds you get to do of this trick-taking sort of thing, then you win. And I think for that night, we got one more game in, and that game was Fyfe. And this is a game that I've played before. For some reason, I think the game that I thought it was a game called The Fog, which had a similar art cover to it. And I thought it was some adventure game where you're on an island or something, or you're trying to travel people back and forth, whatever. It is not that. It is, if you like Sudoku, then it's similar to something like that, as every player has their own player board, and it's dual layered, which I always love, and every player has their own board. It has a 5x5 grid where you can put tokens and little inlay slots where you can put these surfboards, which are kind of the objectives that you hope to win in a certain row or column or diagonal. There are actually diagonals in this. But it's kind of a simultaneous play game, as you'll be passing around this bag where you'll be taking a token, and that token and another token on your board, you'll be picking which one you want to place on your board. Once you pick a place for that token, then you have to pick an objective, if you are able, that will line up with the token you just placed. So let's say that I have a token and the tokens come in different colors, icons, and numbers. So let's say I took a red coconut 5, and for some reason I put it in the smack dab middle of the game board. And I look at the different surfboards that I have. You won't use all of these surfboard objectives in any one game, so there is some choice there, but they score differently based on the complexity of actually being able to accomplish that objective. So let's just say I take an objective that says, I'm going to get all 5s, so all of the same number, and I put that on the top middle of my board so that I believe that I'm going to start collecting 5s down the middle of that row. So then the next turn goes, you'll pick another token, you'll put that token somewhere, pick an objective, and the game goes until everyone has no more spots to put tokens or objectives around their board. If you are the first person to get an objective, so let's say that 5 or same numbers in a row objective that I got, if I'm the first person to win that objective, I also get bonus points for being the first person to do that. Then at the end of the game, the person with the most points wins. And I think that was it for our Wednesday. But either on that night or the night before, we had set up Diables, which is a game from Salt and Pepper Games, I believe. And I'll get more into that in a second, because the next day we still played one more light game before we got back to our heavy game. And that game is called The Number. The Number is a 2 to 5 player game. It is by Hisashi Hayashi, which I know has other games that I really liked, and for some reason I'm drawing a blank right now and I did not write it down. But here we are. It is a 2 to 5 player game, and it is very simple. I played it before apparently in my BGA app, but I forgot. And everyone is given their own little board. It's a dry erase board, and there are 3 different slots where you can put numbers. On their other personal board, they have digits from 0 to 9. And in a round, you are trying to get the highest number possible without repeating one of the digits in your number with another player. If you are the highest person, so let's say I chose 999, which is the highest possible number that you can get from the digits 0 to 9, and somebody else put like 129, my number is automatically taken out of the running for the highest number that you can have in a round, because somebody else lower than my number has repeated the digit 9. So it's a balancing act of trying to see what numbers other people might play versus your number and trying not to repeat it. So like in my example for 999, you can repeat a single digit 3 times over if you want. But if you win a round, so no one else has duplicated your digits in their number, then you actually have to scratch those numbers off on your personal board, and you cannot use them for the rest of the game. This means that you're giving other people the information that, oh, well, I know they can't use a 9 anymore, so now's my chance to use a 9 in my next number. And you'll be scoring points for the first digit in your number. So again, if I had scored 999, then I would score a 9 for that round. But as I was bumped out, and let's say 129 was not repeated in anybody else's numbers, their first digit is 1, so they only score 1 point. But after a certain amount of rounds, I think it's 2 or 3, the person with the most points wins. But that was a fun and quick one. And then we finished our game of Diables. And Diables, I think, is on Kickstarter when I'm doing this video. It is a game by Danny Garcia. And Danny Garcia, I have liked a few of his designs recently. And that includes the Voynich puzzle, which was part of my 2025 Best Games of the Year. And it feels similar to other Danny Garcia games too. I think he did Daitoshi, and there was also Arborea, and it's more like there's a bunch of complex, like simpler games that you can get on a big board, but they all kind of have their own little area on the main board. But in this game, you're also playing on your main player board, which has you taking different actions and moving different workers, unlocking workers so that you still have workers to place on the main board. Because if you place workers on the main board, they never come back to you. You'll be going up tracks, unlocking things. There is a lot going on, and it was fun. I will say that part of the game, there's also this social media area, and the social media area is something you shouldn't not pay attention to. Every player has their set of pictures that they can take, or picture tokens, and the social media aspect of the board has different objectives. The pictures are usually easier objectives to try to fulfill so that you can place your token down. And the videos are a little bit more complex, like you might need a worker and a firework versus just a worker or just a firework to place on those. Or you'll also have actions where you can like photos. And the way that scoring for the social media aspect of the game goes off is when either every card or picture and video in that row have a player's camera token on it, or if there is no longer a place on any of the cards to put a like token. And you'll be scoring these based on camera tokens to likes on a card. And that scoring, when it does go off, can actually shoot you way up. And if you don't keep up with that, then you lose out like I did. But basically, the theme of this is like, I can't remember. It's a festival, and it's Diables, and you've got different drummers and devil performers and dragon tokens, and these are going to different areas. So there's like a drummer area, and in our game, you got points for the different colored workers around your drummer in that area. And then depending on the amount of workers you have in that area, you'll score points. And there are tracks for each of these types of areas where every time you move up a track, you'll get a bonus or a reward. But most of these actions can only be performed on your personal board, where you'll place your worker, and these ones do come back to you at the end of a round, but you cannot have a worker in the same row. So there's like maybe 3 different actions that you can take in a row, and once you put your worker out and choose that action, you can't have a worker in that same row. And I think there are only like 4 possible slots, 4 or 5 possible slots that you'll be able to not repeat a worker in a row. So that was interesting itself, and the actions can change every round as you'll be putting in new cards every round to your personal board. And yeah, it was really interesting. I know this is kind of like an abstract overview of the game, but it was really interesting. I know it does have a solo mode. I think I didn't say it's a 1 to 4 player game. And it's on Kickstarter or GameFound, or it's crowdfund campaigning right now. I don't know anything about the solo mode, but it sounds like, it looks like a lot to set up for a solo game, similar to probably the Voynich puzzle, a little bit more overhead, especially the first time you play it, as you have to punch out all these fireworks, which are pretty much your resources for the game. But it was really fun, and I would be really interested in trying it again. So that was a big chunky game that took us over 2 days to win. So then we played some lighter games again. The next game that we played is a trick-taking game called Can't Win. And this is a 3 to 4 player game that is trick-taking but also bidding. So the neat twist on the trick-taking for this one is at the beginning of every round, we go around the circle, whatever, we go around the table. That made it sound like I was in junior kindergarten or something. But anyways, you go around the table with the people that you're playing with, and you will either decide, am I going to bid how many tricks I think I'm going to win in this round, or will I take a condition that lets me not win in a certain circumstance for a trick? So everyone has to pick both of these at some point. The order in which you pick your bid or your condition is up to you. But what you'll be doing is, in our game, I think we played 4 players at that time. We had 5 different conditions out, and there are a couple of different suits. So I think there was like purple, pink, maybe blue or yellow. I can't remember. But if you pick that condition, then you can never win tricks that have purple, for instance. So whenever you play a purple, no matter the numerical value, you cannot win that trick. Then there are odds and evens for conditions. So if you ever play an odd card, then you can't win a trick. If you ever play an even card, then you can't win the trick. And with those conditions, you're also trying to think of the bid. So how many tricks do I think I'm going to win? You'll want to win the exact amount of your bid, but if you bet 0 and you win 1 trick, then you don't get that extra stuff that you would for doing the correct bid. But you do still get 1 point for every trick that you do collect in the round. So if you go out early with your 0 bid and win a trick, you'll still want to compete for tricks as you go along in the game. But again, you have to try to figure out or calculate the possibility of winning tricks with that condition involved in your gameplay. So it was really neat, and I also want to shout out the art because I do like the choice of little 8-bit or 16-bit old school video game art that they have. So I was looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. It was fun, it was quick, it was a good time. So another game that we got to play, and this one I think is up for the Spiel des Jahres this year, and I didn't hear of it, but the game is called Jinxo, and that is the version that I played. And this 4 to 7 player game is played over a few rounds, and it's a party game, and everyone has their own dry erase board with a blank board of a 3x3 grid that you can write in. Every turn, somebody will pick a card from the middle and choose a prompt for everyone to answer. So let's say that one of the prompts is celebrity crushes of the 90s, okay? And what you're trying to do is you get to write down 3 answers for that prompt. Partly, you're looking at the people around the table and who do you think you're going to match with, because your ultimate goal is to at least get 1 match for whatever you write down on your board. So let's say I put Leonardo DiCaprio in one, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas in another, and I put Willow from Buffy, aka Allison Hannigan. All these people I'm sure everyone knows. With the people around the table, you're hoping that at least one other person has put one of those answers on their grid. In that case, if it's only one person, you're best friends and you get to circle the answer and put a special star. Each of those indications give you a point at the end of the round, but if more than one person guesses the same answer, then you only circle the answer on your grid, and you'll get 1 point for that answer for the circle. If nobody else, and you are on an island by yourself with your old 90s crush, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, then you get no points, and you have to sit in your silence and sadness. But at the end of the round ends once there are 3 prompts and everyone's filled out their grid. And then you go around the table and everybody gives an answer that you hope somebody at the table aligns with you. And once the last person, I think it is, has all of the answers on their grid completed, then people will count up their points based on circled answers, starred answers, and the grid points that you have for correct answers. So let's say Leonardo DiCaprio was smack dab in the middle, and one other person also had a crush on Leo in the 90s. That means I'd get a point for the circle, a point for the star, and in the middle I have a 2 value on the column and a 2 value on the row, so I get 4 points. So total, I get 6 points for Leonardo DiCaprio. Yay for me, and for Leo, if you're watching. But Jinxo was really fun. We played that a couple of times. It is a great party game. It's definitely one that I think deserves its spot for the Spiel des Jahres. I do hope they win, but they do have tough competition. Otherwise, I will go on to more games, and we get back into a little bit more of complicated games. So a game that I guess Ilya and Tylor hadn't played, which is one that Jenna and I have loved, is Galileo Galilei. And this is a great game by Thomas Holek, who is a designer that I've also been really enjoying, and it is a 1 to 4 player game. We played a 4-player game of this one, introducing it to them. I still think like it looks so beige and so Euro, but for the ability to teach the game, it's really easy, and I feel like even at 4 players, we play it pretty quickly. That, or I'm just having such a good time that time passes by really quickly. In the game, you're trying to pretty much use your personal board as a rondel action thing, as your telescope looks at different actions on your player board. Sorry, I am itchy. Sometimes I forget I'm on camera, but you'll be using the telescope to point to the action that you'd like to take. And there is a upper part of these different action tokens that you'll take an action for, and a lower part that has an action token. All of the action tokens are switched at the end of every person's turn. So they go back to the bottom and then everything moves. So this isn't like a static rondel of actions. So there will always be a little bit of a mix as you go through your turns. And you'll never be able to take the 2 actions on the bottom because those are X spots. I don't know, your telescope doesn't look into the soil, buddy. It looks into the sky. But what you'll be trying to do is bump up tracks that'll give you better scoring over the game. The main thing is that you'll be looking at constellations with different dice combinations. You'll have red, yellow, and blue dice that go up to 6. They are 6-sided dice, and you'll be trying to match those values to constellations so that you can put your personal markers on them, get points, get good things, I don't know. And then you'll also be trying to discover the different constellations, or not constellations. So, like a Big Dipper. Is a Big Dipper a constellation? I don't know. Somebody tell me in the comments. When you collect Ursa Major, you'll take that card into your area and develop your own little track or research track that you'll bump up and get more things. You'll also get points for those, but you'll have to get rid of your dice that collectively have to add up to a certain value. Then you'll also have these baddies. So, during this era of Galileo Galilei and this further development of the science of constellations and the universe and blah, 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 it was kind of bad for the church. So you'd have to go and possibly end up getting talked to by inquisitors and having an inquisition. So you'll have to, while you're developing or building up more knowledge, you might end up having to take inquisitors and put them in this little dungeon thing. But you'll try to talk them into your discoveries and kind of meld how science and religion can be one, or that it's not that bad, and therefore the Inquisitor will move closer and closer to being kind of a fan of your work. I don't know. There's probably a way better way to say what I just said, but I don't know. Mine, I guess, sounds more fun. But yes, that was thematically part of the time of Galileo Galilei, and it's still a really great game. I love it solo, I love it multiplayer, and I was really happy that Ilya and Tylor got to try it and seemed to love it as well. The other game that we got to play was a game that I did a playthrough for Rio Grande Games, and was also another game that was on my 2025 best of list. I think Galileo Galilei was on that list as well. This one is called Moon Colony Bloodbath, and it is the cult sci-fi deck building engine destroying game that is just so good if you really get into the theme of it. Like, it's really just tokens and cards, but you have to read the little dialogue that they have on different cards, especially the robots that like tell you when these events and things happen. But if you aren't familiar with Moon Colony Bloodbath, it is basically a communal deck or event deck that you are building simultaneously while trying to build up your own little moon colony. Over the course of events, some bad things happen. So different events, different accidents will happen while you're trying to build out your colony. And then you'll try to hire different robots and accidents will happen and you'll need to sacrifice your people from your colony. So while you're building up your buildings that give you different actions over the game, you'll also have to sacrifice them to the accidents in order to pay the people that were sacrificed in a very sad accident. And the game ends when somebody has been completely depleted of people on their colony. The person with the most amount of people left wins the game. And I had a very fun time with this. I won with one other person. No, I didn't win. I won at losing is what happened. We both were depleted of our colonies at the same time. So after Moon Colony Bloodbath, we tried out Guillotine, which Guillotine is a 1998 game, but I guess they had redid it or just had new art come out for it. And I really like, in the game, the thematic guillotine thing was kind of the French Revolution. And when I used to be in school, I was very interested in the French Revolution. So that was just my own personal like, ooh, that's fun. But you don't really have to know much about it. The game kind of has this guillotine cardboard cutout thing, and you'll be drafting different cards in a line. And it's the closest noble to the guillotine gets... So you'll be drafting different cards. Different cards have different actions. Basically, you'll be trying to get the most points in your area at the end of the game. And I believe, I'm not sure how many rounds that the game lasts of drafting, but it's open drafting, some set collection, some take that, and balancing out negative cards or planning for a noble that's getting close to the guillotine or a noble that has a negative point value that you don't want to take being pushed to the end of the line, so you take another card. And very like simple, but the theme is neat. And then reading the different nobles from the historical period, like Marie Antoinette, was very fun and funny. And yeah, easier game to learn. It's probably like 15, 20 minutes or something like that. I bet you my timing is off with how I view that the time went versus how long the game actually is, because I'm usually just having a good time and maybe it was longer, but who knows? I digress. I talk so much. We are now on to game 18 of 25, and this game was a game that I know is one of Ilya and Tylor's favorite games, or at least that's what I had heard, and I had never played it. And the game is called Fun Facts. And this is a it's a party game, and it's a cooperative game, and everyone will have a tile that you can dry erase on and write their name on. And there will be a prompt that's kind of like, how much do you want to be the president? I don't know. And you have to pick a number from 1 to 100. Everyone will write their number on their fun facts thing, their little arrow that you can dry erase on. And they'll put it down, and then as we go around the circle, we'll be trying to hopefully place our named cards in a particular order that's hopefully from highest to lowest. We win if it's highest to lowest on the first try, and like, woohoo, we all know exactly how much everybody would love to be president. But if there is a number that kind of breaks up our highest to lowest thing, so let's say I have a 3 and somebody else puts a 1 on top of me and then continues to go higher, then you'll take those numbers off and you'll get the points for each correct number that's highest to lowest At the end of the game, we'll calculate how many points we communally got as a team and rank ourselves based on how good we know each other and our fun facts. It was a fun game I'd never played before. The 19th game that I played is an older game. I'd never heard of it. It is a 1 to 5 player game, which actually surprised me because it's got bidding in it. But it is called the Princes of Florence, and this is a Wolfgang Kramer game. And it's kind of, everyone's got their own personal board where they're kind of making out, I don't know what it is. Like there's land and it's different works. Like it's different architecture of different landscape items or building items. You're hired to do different artistic works by different contractors. What you'll be doing is at the beginning of the round, someone will start the bidding on a particular type of tile or worker or bonus card, and everyone will have a set amount of money to start the game with, and it'll be hidden behind a little shield. So nobody really knows, other than the beginning of the game, how much money everybody is working with, and people will bid on a particular item, and then once a person gets their bid for that round, they get the item, but then the lead person, if they weren't the one who won the bid, gets to choose the next item that the group is going to bid on. So at the end of the round, everyone gets a particular item that starts the round. Typically, it's different landscape items, a worker, a jester, or a card that they can utilize during the game. You'll place tiles in your area, and different buildings cannot orthogonally touch. They can diagonally touch on like a corner, but that's about it. And then you can have landscape tiles. But mostly you're trying to build out your grid with different contract cards that you have in your hand. And contract cards will tell you the value of constructing a particular building. Plus you'll get points for the cards in your hand and special pink cards. And every round, you have to have a minimum amount of value on your work in order to score it. And you're trying to score the highest value for that round in order to either get points or money into the next round. As you build out things, you'll still get money for them, but obviously not as much, and you're trying to get as much money at the end of the game because the person with the most money, no, the person with the most points and money, whatever, gets to win the game. And it was really interesting. Again, I hadn't heard of it before, so it took me a minute. It was a little later, but I really liked the game. I just have no idea how this solo would run, but I was really interested in possibly, hopefully, somebody having the game out there and playing it again. So the next game that we played was a game that Bao, who is a friend of Ilya and Tylor, and now mine, brought to game night, and it is called Moo and More Revised. And I think there's more than one of these Moo and whatever, and MU, not moo like a cow, because that is originally, I was picturing some party game that involved cows, and it is not that. It is a trick-taking game, and it is really interesting. I haven't played Noko Su Dice, and that is one of the comparisons that I think people were talking about for this one. But it's a trick-taking game. It's kind of team-based, and what you're doing is everyone's given a set of cards for the beginning of the round, but they'll be bidding to kind of be the team leader for that round. So on your turn, you have to decide if you're going to reveal a card from your hand. And I think that the cards go 1 to 9 or 1 to something, but 1s and 7s have more than one set of that card in each suit. And the suits are in different colors. So like blue, red, blah, blah, blah. And what you're doing is you're placing a card down. The first person to place a card down gets the crown team, and they get that token and are symbolized as part of the crown team. The next person to put down a card gets the shield team. Now from then on, you have to place higher cards or different sets of cards. So let's say that I put down an 8 of blue, somebody else, the next person puts down like a 2 of red. So I get the crown, they get the shield, and then somebody else puts down a 9 of something. So then their number is higher than mine. They get to be the new crown. And then I think I become the shield. I don't know about that. Anyways, that itself is a little confusing, and it's been like a week since I played. It's this interesting back and forth of how much information do you want to reveal so that you can see who you want to be your teammate and who might not be your teammate, as well as judging with the hand that I have, do I want to be on the crown team or do I want to be on the shield team? Because the crown team, when that token is decided to be in front of somebody and everyone else has passed on putting cards down for the round, they get to choose their teammate. So they will evaluate kind of the cards that are on the table, and all the cards on the table are still parts of people's hands that can be played during a round, and they'll pick their teammate. Then the shield team, based on the cards that are in front of them, the lead person will choose a suit that is kind of like secondary trump, so that can be a color or a number. Then the crown team also picks a color or a suit that ultimately trumps the shield's trump. So a little confusing, but based on what a crown or the shield put down, it is the amount of tricks that they have to win in order for their team to win and get full-on points for the round. Again, a little confusing. I know they said it's kind of like Nokosu Dice, which I heard was also a little confusing for a trick-taking game, but it was really fun and interesting. There's so many different things that you have to work through. I think it was the one game that I played during that week where people weren't talking as much. It was very like tense feeling, like everyone is really thinking hard on what or how they want to go about things. So I lost, but I got to be crowned once and drag Jenna down with me. It was a good time, a fun time, and I'd be interested in playing it again, but it is a 2 to 6 player game. So again, trick-taking games don't usually have a solo mode, although there is the Lord of the Rings trick-taking games, which are very good, but we did not play. On to my 21st game, and there are only 4 more after this, because we played 25 total. And Evenglow is a game that is coming from the OP, and it is a 1 to 4 player game. For some reason, I wasn't getting it right away, but you're playing, it's tiles and set collection, and every player has their own board, and there are 2 symmetrical gardens. One's like an evening garden, one's like a day garden, I don't know. It's something like that. But they have mirrored depictions of the spots in their grid, in their gardens. So if the one is the furthest on the left for the dark garden, then the one is furthest on the right of the day garden. And whenever you have to take 2 tiles, because on every turn, you'll be either taking 2 tiles that have been given to you by the player in the lead spot for that round, or you'll be deciding how to orient a card for you to take 2 tiles on that turn. Whatever those tiles are, you have to put them in the mirrored spot on each of your gardens. So let's say I got a vine and a flower, and the vine and the flower have to both be placed on that one spot in each of my gardens. They can't be both on one garden because each tile scores differently. And if you get different sets collected within your gardens, you'll get special power cards, which will give you a bonus action that you can do or give you points at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you'll score all the points that you have because you have no more space to put any tiles on your grids, and the person with the most points wins. Melted my brain a little bit. Maybe it was just late at night, but it definitely took me a second. It's not that difficult. It was just, I think I was just not with it at the time. But it's interesting and you'd want to play it again. I'm sure at the solo mode, a lot of tile games do great solo modes. So we shall see how that one goes. That one is coming out, I think, this year at some point. And then we have 4 more games. But this game that we're going to talk about is called Ringyo. And this one is by Paverson that also did Luthier and Distilled. And do I have them in the background? Yes, I do. Right there. So I have liked Paverson games, and Ringyo is a 1 to 4 player game, which kind of has a theme from the Edo era, I believe. but it's kind of like forestry. There were samurai that were like forestry experts, but everyone kind of gets their own province board, and it's a pyramid shape with different trees, different colored trees in different areas, or different like flooded lake tiles that can become rice paddy growing areas. And you'll be growing trees with these little cones that you'll be building up. And during the game, you're trying to do different things. So you can grow a tree, you can cut down trees, you can splice those trees, you can build rice paddy areas, you can harvest those rice paddy areas, you can build a military area building or a like farm for the rice paddies so that you get more out of when you do harvest from there. But you'll also have to be wary of different floods, as flooding does occur, and it could end up like decimating a whole bunch of trees you were growing, or just different things going on. So there's a lot of things that you're going to look at in your province area. But the way you're getting points is basically by building out buildings which cost different types or colors of lumber on your own personal board. You'll also be having like end round objectives that come out over the course of a game, and they'll be asking for different sets of trees. So like 2 green cones along with 2 red cones, or just a set of 2 and a set of 3 for the end game goals. But you'll be doing that, and then at the end of every round, you'll be flipping cards to see which spaces do flood, and you're kind of trying to balance being able to grow your province with different buildings and harvesting different like rice paddy farms that help you kind of use as glue to put these trees together if you want. But everyone will kind of bid on where they want to land in getting first choice on that round's 4 or 5 cards that get put out that are optional additions to your turn when it comes up. So let's say if you pick a 6, you might have to pay 2 harvested rice tokens to play the 6, because you will definitely be able to go first for the round, but you'll also have to sacrifice something. But for before the bidding is revealed, the 4 cards or 4 bonuses that people are kind of bidding on when they would like to actively choose what their fate is can consist of getting extra workers. Everyone starts the game with 2 yellow workers, but there are red workers and blue workers, and the different colored workers have different strengths or abilities towards actions that you can take. You can get more province areas that you can add these different forestry tiles to your province. There's just a whole bunch of different things that you'll be getting. So this part is kind of the part of the game where everyone gets to play together. So the bidding of cards on turn order, and then everyone choosing what option they'd like. That's kind of their thing that they get to do for that round. Once that part of the game is done, then everyone gets to simultaneously take their actions. And taking their actions is based on worker placement with the workers that you have for that round. What you'll do, depending on the different colored workers, you'll put them in the center of 3 different forestry areas in your province. And depending on the strength of that worker, you'll be able to take either 1, 2, or 3 different actions that align with the spaces that your worker is connected to. Different things will give you different points. You'll be going up a different path where you'll be paying trees or rice tokens in order to go through that to get points or more points for sets of trees and workers, I believe. Might just be trees and the value that you have for different lengths or heights on your province board. And as these go through for 5 different rounds, the person with the most points wins. Yay! It's very fun when it does come to crowdfunding on July 7th. I suggest that you check it out. I will be checking it out to find out more about that solo mode, and I'll probably try to link that in the description below just for curiosity's sake, for me to know where to go and then for you to know where to go. The next game is a game that I had heard a lot of people like and solo people like, and especially having roll and write or verb and write games be something that really got me into the hobby when I started as a solo gamer. The game is called Draft and Write Records, and this is one by Inside Up, which is a Canadian board game company. And I had never played it. I know it is on BGA, but a lot of the time I want to try to play the game physically before I try any kind of virtual adaptation of a game. I just find it is a lot easier to understand when I'm able to do it that way. But Draft and Write Records is basically a drafting card game where you'll draft cards. You're drafting cards similar to Sushi Go, where you've got a set of cards, you pick one and you pass it. And a round consists of passing all these cards until you've depleted all the cards that have been passed to you, and everyone takes their action for that card on their player mat. The cards that you're collecting include band members, which is kind of the big thing, and if anyone collects all of their band members, then the game ends for everyone at that turn. You can also end up not being able to place anything on your board at a turn, and that is another end game trigger. And then there are different grids and traveling locations that you can go on. And traveling locations or on grids in your phone and somewhere else that I can't remember. But they will unlock different symbols, and a lot of the symbols that you're trying to get are either money so that you can continue your tour or add more band members, or discs and tapes, because at the end of the game, you'll be doing a multiplier between the number of tapes that you've unlocked versus the number of discs that you've unlocked to score points. But the biggest thing is that there are goal cards out in the center that kind of give you a direction to try to lead towards. So it might be collecting certain symbols in your grid. So let's say have all of the corners in your cell phone grid covered up by the end of the round. Then that goal card would score for that person or whoever else at the table have scored for that. That one will be discarded and a new goal card will come out. For some reason, I'm having a really hard time saying goal. That is also another endgame trigger, is if someone has gotten their top part of their board all full of different goal card completions. So one of those three ways, the game ends and the person with the most points wins. It was a fun one. I don't know if it's one of my favorite roll and writes. I definitely have to play it more, and I don't know how the solo plays. But it was neat. I haven't played like a draft and write game in a while. I digress. It is time for my second to last game that we played over a week. And that game is Darwin's Journey. It is one of my favorite games, and again was on my 2025 list. And I share that sentiment with most of the people that we played the game with. But this was the game that we played face masks with. Well, we didn't play face masks. I brought some funny face masks for us to do for a spa night, and we all got dressed up in these stupid animal masks and tried to take the game seriously. And then every once in a while, you'd catch someone's face and just be like, what? We're so serious with these stupid masks. But anyways, we got to play Darwin's Journey. It is a great game for 1 to 4 players. It was done by Simone Luciani, which I have loved his games. Grand Austria Hotel is also one of my favorite games. But we got to play the Oceania expansion, which was the most recent one that came out for the game. And I really like what this game does. I feel like it took the best things from the Fire Island expansion and made them better in this one. And just thematically, the biggest change, because it's really a bunch of different modules that they've interjected into this one, that thematically the biggest one is hazard tokens. And if you're the first player to kind of border into a new area of the map, or the first person to discover a new species, then you end up having to take a hazard token, which puts you negatively on this graph. And this graph area kind of has negative consequences that change per round, or you'll have to take negative points. So it balances out when somebody is kind of running away with getting all the species tokens in a game, and how sometimes it can seem like Mount Everest of trying to beat somebody else at this game when they're so far ahead on the game board because they've discovered all the crap. But I feel like it balances out a little bit more. It's also not as bad. You can mitigate or work to mitigate those hazards as well. So it's finding a balance, and it's a new kind of strategy, or puts new life into Darwin's Journey, which again was a game I already loved. And then in each game, you'll have different areas where you'll put your tents, and those areas change. You'll have new objectives every game. So different things will come out. So there's a lot of variability now mixed into it to switch things up in little ways. But it's still the game that like I know and love. And it was one of, I think it was, yeah, well, obviously it was one of the last games before I was supposed to leave, because I was supposed to leave, I think at 8 a.m. was my flight the next day. So a really fun way to end the trip for board games specifically, with the face masks and a serious game, and one that we all love. But my flight was delayed, so I got to play one more game before I left. And the game that I got to play is Stag, which is, I think, one coming out next year. It is a 1 to 4 player game, and it's, oh my god, so it's by the same folks that did that mushroom game that's really good. I'll put the name of it somewhere because it's, I think it's like Marcella or no. Anyways, the game is called Stag, and it's really interesting the way that you're doing it. It's a programming game, and I don't usually feel like I've played a lot of programming games. Sometimes they're hit and miss, but this one I really did enjoy. And you've got a circular main board where the outer perimeter is kind of where you'll put your grubs. So like the first stage of growth for these little beetle bugs that we're trying to become. And then you move into the pupa stage, and then you'll become a beetle. And these beetles, depending on how many people are beetles in around and have fed their beetles, will fight for like ultimate dominance and get extra points and extra goodness if they win their fight. But before I get into that, that is the general main board. On your player board, you'll have different, I think 5 different types of tokens that have 3 different types of actions, where depending on where you place them, so anything placed in the middle of your board are the actions that you'll be taking for that round. But how you adjust your token on your personal board, whatever is revealed, aka not covered up by your tile placement, will be the resources that you get at the end of the round. So you're trying to balance what actions you need to take to either grow your grub to a pupa, satisfy its objectives to move it up a level, the resources that you need to feed that, and then just making sure that you have enough eggs to pay for the cards that you want to play to grow as from grub to beetle. And it's really interesting. I think this was another one where we were a little bit more quiet as we were kind of thinking through all the different possibilities, but also you'll have your own personal objectives. But the other big thing, and maybe a little bit take that or confrontational for people's taste, so like it's either or and depends very much on who you're playing with. But if more than one beetle are grown to the top spot at the same time and have been fed resources that their tokens kind of flip over and are ready for battle, then 2 people or multiple people, however many beetles are fed that round, have a token. And this token you kind of flip to either fighting or foraging. And depending on the different mix-up and matches-up of people revealing these tokens will determine who gets points and who gets other good stuff and who doesn't get anything. So if everyone forages, it's kind of like everyone gets an equal share of goodness. If one person forages and another person fights, the fighter actually wins everything, and the forager kind of is a poo-poo. If there's a battle of 3 people, there are different circumstances based on the different situations that can occur when revealing tokens, and it's definitely a tense thing. I think in our game, the one that we played, that last fight determined a lot of things, but it was fun and I really liked it. The thinkiness, the programming of it, it's neat, and I now also want to go back and look at their other game, which has come highly recommended. But that is 25 games that we played in Edmonton. I tried to go quickly through them from memory and from this little book that I looked at a little bit. But the one game that I allowed myself to get, so right now I have been trying to cut down on getting games at the moment for various reasons, but I am also not someone who just buys things on a whimsy. And I did go to GameCon. I didn't actually get a game there, but I did get a game at Mission and Fun Games, and it was Animal Kingdom, which was one of my favorite games that I played and was on my list during one of my monthly recaps. I think wherever that recap is, I'll put it somewhere. But I really liked that game, and it has a solo mode. It was based off of some theory of you can't go over 7 bridges and not have gone over one more than once. And I don't know, it's really interesting, but just the different puzzle of it is really great. So I'm looking forward to when I'm able to get that one played. I have a lot of backlog of crap to have gotten to, as I had come back from Edmonton and then had other family things that I had to take care of for a week. So that is why this is so much later than everyone else's. But I will be putting together my June monthly recap soon and have that come out, and that will include more of the GameCon coverage, my trip to Edmonton Mall, a little bit of volleyball, a little bit of other fun tiddly bits, and I'll also do my regular games recap for the entire month and my surprises, disappointments, and favorites of the month, along with some ideas that I have going forward to do a little bit more community, so it's not just me in front of a camera and there's nothing other than comments for dialogue coming back. I'll get into that in my recap video, and I'll also have a solo mode check episode for Fate of the Fellowship coming out. That one is one that I am looking forward to doing. It was a game that was high on my anticipation list, so I got to play it solo and I have thoughts. But I won't give away everything in this video of my monthly lineup. For now, if you want to hear more about the trip that I took, you can check out Tylor and Ilya's video on the Covray channel, or you can look at Jenna's channel, the Board Game Garden, for a recap of that. I'll also be doing the mid-year board game tag that Rolling Reggie has done. This video is too long. I can't speak anymore. Think of talking to yourself for over an hour, okay? I have a hard time. But that is all for today. Hope you have a fabulous day, and goodbye!